What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another daily update here on this trial. I was not necessarily expecting to do this every single day like we have been doing, and I definitely wasn't expecting to do it tonight after a full day that I've had. But you guys sent me this cross examination and basically knew and had the feeling that this was a very, very good cross examination. So I like to highlight good lawyering, skillful lawyering. Doesn't mean they're always going to win. I talk about it all the time. Good lawyers lose, bad lawyers win. Sometimes good lawyers win and bad lawyers lose, of course, as well. But whenever we have the opportunity to watch somebody cross examine a witness, that you have to be kind of delicate because he is a victim here, and he testified and told his story. But this is why cross examination is so important. It seeks the truth, it scrutinizes people's testimony, it lets the jury think and determine whether or not somebody's credible, fully, partially, that some of their memory might not be as good as they think it is or want it to be. Maybe they are biased in one way or the other. Maybe they don't remember it correctly. And there are indications of that you can pull out regardless of what their answers are during cross-examination. And that's exactly what happened to me today as I watched this cross-examination by Mr. Mew's attorney, who was the same attorney in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. But one of the young boys or men that were part of the victims group was testifying today, and they've testified. A bunch of them have testified. They've said similar things. There's some minor differences. They want to give certain things, but not others. They don't want to make it seem like Mr. Mew was in fear for his life. They want to make it seem like they were afraid, or that's, their explanation. Kind of hard to believe with a bunch of fit guys, 10-1 odds basically, and not necessarily old. He's in his 50s, but out of shape, quadruple bypass, patient. They're trying to make him look sickly on the defense side and decrepit and obviously in fear for his life. And this cross-examination, I think, helped with that and helped with trying to put the jurors, a lot of whom are Mr. Mew's age or older, in his shoes and seeing, would you be in fear for your life or serious bodily harm? So we're going to focus on just the cross-examination of this witness today. There's a lot of other testimony, a lot of other things happening today, but that's going to be the focus of our video. Let me know what you think about it as we go in the live chat and in the comments, and make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to like the video here as we are continuing to bring coverage of this trial and trying to hit the highlights where you guys really have questions or comments or things that we really think we can learn about the judicial system as we watch together. That's the goal of this channel, and that's the goal of these videos. So we're going to jump in here together.
Mr. Pelican, you gave a 17-minute long recorded interview to law enforcement. Okay, do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Or after the river, or at the hospital?
At the hospital, you gave an interview to investigator Andrew Dittman.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And investigator Dittman, I don't know if you remember this. There's a transcript of it.
Mhm.
Asked you about your contact
Mhm.
with Mr. Mew. Do you remember that?
Not really off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay. Do you remember being asked this question and providing this answer from investigator Dittman? Okay, so about an hour and a half, 2 hours into it, this guy, how does it? Does he walk up to you guys, float up to you guys? Your answer: we were floating, and then we look at him, and he was just standing completely by himself with some goggles on. And then we were like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm looking for a phone." Do you remember providing that answer to that question?
Not at all.
Is that true?
Very true.
That happened.
No,
That didn't happen.
I do not remember.
You don't remember what happened that day in the river?
Well, I remember.
So right off the bat, when you have something that he absolutely said did not happen or is contrary to his direct examination, you start with that. You get it locked in that he gave the officers the interview. Most people think your memory's better right after it happens versus years later. We'll see if that witness agrees. But immediately you're going at his credibility. You're using facts that, was he looking for the phone? Was he not? That's part of the issue, I guess, but I don't see that as a huge issue, whether he was looking for the phone. Obviously, he wasn't actually creeping on people. Maybe that was their perception of it. It's fine. But these facts that they want to argue about and fight about that don't really hit at the ultimate issue as to who started the fight, who was in fear of what, should he have left, even though he doesn't have a duty to retreat? Did he make bad decisions that ended up causing the death of the young person in this case, or was it in self-defense? But when you lie about, and I'm not saying he's lying, but when you can make a witness look like a liar based on their previous testimony that's in complete opposition to what they're testifying to now, it is a very important thing for the jury who has to determine and weigh a witness's credibility. Even victims, they still get scrutinized on if they're telling the truth and having a prior inconsistent statement, this is a very skillful way. There are some objections that are sustained, but he really hammers that prior inconsistent statement.
So did he or did he not tell you that he was looking for a phone?
I don't recall him ever saying that. No.
Okay. Is your memory better today or is it better on the day of the incident?
I say it's better today.
It's better today, almost 2 years later.
Feel
Yes.
like, yeah, I've been able to think about it a lot.
I mean, you guys tell me in the chat right now. What do you think? Do you think somebody's memory is usually better the day something happens or the day after something happens or 2 years later? Most witnesses take the stand and say, oh, that happened 2 years ago. How do you expect me to remember? A lot of witnesses in this trial have said that. But some people may agree with the fact that you've had a lot of time to reflect and think about it, and now you have a better memory today. I mean, I guess. Let me know in the chat if you think that and why you think that. Because sometimes really reflecting and thinking about it and talking to other people and maybe watching, I don't think he watched this trial, but maybe he saw other depositions or talked to his friends about their depositions. And that can actually maybe cloud or change your memory to what it actually was right after you saw it before you could talk to anybody else about the story. But he said it adamantly that his memory was better or is better today. So don't believe anything he said in that interview. If it was inconsistent, believe what he said today. And I'm interested to find out whether or not a jury buys that.
Well, in between the time of the incident and today, do you ever reach back out to law enforcement to make any corrections that you might have had?
No, I'm pretty young. I wouldn't have known how to do that.
Okay.
Still one.
I think that's a good answer from him that he wouldn't know how to do that, but it's a good point by the attorney. It's like, well, if your memory is so much better today and you have a completely different story about what he was doing and that was completely false what you told them that day, you don't remember telling them that day, why didn't you correct the story? Another answer would have been, I don't remember saying that, which is what he kind of said already. So maybe saying, I don't know how to do that, and I didn't even remember that I told him that, but it was wrong. I guess again, saying you were completely wrong, we've talked about this in other cases where defendants say, well, I lied in the past. I'm not lying now, but I lied in the past. So for him to say, I was completely wrong about a fact that I told the cops, what I told you today is the truth, I think it's a tough one.
It's not something I learned.
I didn't ask you a question, sir. You were asked by the state about whether or not you mentioned to the police that there's a statement that Mr. Mew told you that he was looking for little girls. Do you remember that?
So also where he just said, I didn't ask you a question, sir, you got to be careful because he is a young looking guy. I do feel for him. This is not easy. His friend literally lost his life in this altercation. I'm sure it was a traumatic event. It could have been him. He's had to think through that a million times. So I do feel for him as a victim in this case. Potential victim. Obviously, if it was self-defense, he wouldn't technically be a victim. But his actions could have led to this as well. Maybe he's feeling some guilt. I do feel for him. So you have to be really careful as a lawyer not to be too hard on this victim. And I think he balances that line pretty well. I think too many more comments like, I didn't ask you a question, sir, or wait till I ask a question, being demanding and overbearing could have gone too far, but I don't think he did that in this cross.
Yes, I do.
Okay. It's not in your statement to police. I'm telling you that. Do you know that?
No, that's a
Do you know that it's not in your statement and your recorded statement to police anywhere
I'm
that you
not
say
aware
that
of
he was
that.
looking for little girls?
I don't recall, no.
But is it your testimony that you recall telling officers that?
I feel like I did, yes. I still do.
So
Feel
then
like I
it
did.
should be in this.
It should be, yes. I'm almost positive I did.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm almost positive I told him that.
Well, if you're almost positive that you told him that, would you have an explanation for why it's not in here?
No, sir. No, sir.
You don't mention to police, but we saw an interview. We saw a video of Juwan Cockfield calling Mr. Mew a raper. You remember that?
Slightly, yeah.
Okay. And do you remember at that point, Mr. Mew just kind of being a little bit away from you guys and hold on.
Sorry.
And Mr. Cockfield just yelling at him, calling him a raper. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember floating towards him.
You remember? My question was, do you remember Mr. Cockfield calling him a raper?
Yes.
At that point, where Mr. Cockfield calls Mr. Mew a raper, has your group had a conversation with him?
I don't really remember.
You don't know?
I don't know.
So at that point, would there be a basis to start calling him names?
He was just like standing really weirdly in front of us and we were floating towards him. And I mean, we couldn't move our tubes. We were going to run into him eventually. So we just said something to him. I don't really remember what we said though.
I'm going to show you this video where he calls him a raper. And I want you to tell me if you look like you're going to run into him.
Okay.
Okay.
So he's used his prior statement with law enforcement, and now he's going to use the video. It's really important to use the evidence and use the exhibits, especially as defense attorneys, because you don't always have things that you can use. And when a jury sees that, they start to think, like, is this evidence actually good for the defense?
Okay.
This is exhibit 2.
Grown man trying to sex a little girl. Who the hell? What the fuck, y'all? He's a raper. Whoa.
You look like you're in danger of running into him at that point.
No, because he was walking a diagonal away from us. He was in front of us though.
He was walking away from you, right? You
For a
just
second, yeah.
Using the evidence to show that his memory today maybe is not that great. Because that video shows they weren't about to run into each other. Mr. Mew was actually walking away. And little things, right? You have to be careful because if you nitpick too much and pick too many little things out, you look like a jerk. He picked some important points because these are points that actually do have to do with who was the aggressor and whether or not this was self-defense, and who was instigating and initiating contact, and who was escalating it and creating fear and creating altercations. Who did that? That's a big question in this case.
And at that point, so he's not impeding your path at that point. True.
True.
Okay. And Jawan Cockfield is holding a phone, is he not?
Yes, he is.
And do you know, you tell the police that you're calling Mr. Mew a pedophile
Mhm.
because he's looking at you, right?
Because he was looking really weird, yeah. And we were kids.
You didn't say that you're calling him a pedophile because he said anything about kids, though, right?
I remember like I did, but I must not have.
You then see Mr. Mew come up to your tubes, right?
Yes, very, very quickly.
And at that point, I think you said that you were scared.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I was definitely scared.
You'd agree he wasn't confrontational with you guys, right?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you were asked a question. Was he confrontational with you guys? And you said no. So you'd agree he wasn't confrontational with you,
Can
right?
you elaborate what confrontational means?
Not proper impeachment, but no objection. So when you're able to ask questions like that about this prior statement, and now he's going to ask to define confrontational, but it's like, you already answered this question. You said no. So however you defined it before.
It's telling you that the officer asked you a question.
Okay.
And that question was he like confrontational with you guys? Your answer was no, right?
Yep, if it's there, yeah.
Okay. So he wasn't confrontational. He comes up to your tubes. You agree he walks
And now he says, if it's there, yeah. But before, if it's there, it was still wrong.
by your tubes then, right?
To an extent, yes.
And he walks past your tubes downriver a little bit. True?
Just a little bit, yep.
You'd agree that you guys move in his direction, yes?
Yes.
You'd agree that at some point, Isaac Schumann is standing in front of him with his hands up like my hands are up.
Yes,
Right.
probably trying to tell him to leave.
Well, I'm not asking you what you think he's doing. What I'm asking you is
That would be speculation. But again, he's not getting rattled. He's just, it's almost like they're having a conversation now. The witness is getting comfortable. The witness is getting comfortable, but like frustrated. And he's trying to force stuff in there. Like, yeah, he was probably telling him to leave. He's like, well, I'm not asking what he was probably doing. He doesn't object. You know how poorly that looked when lawyers object to a witness's answers or statement when they're asking them questions. Never a good look. So instead, if he's just going to blurt something out, you can respond to it. You might get objected to, but neither of those things were admissible or appropriate. So it's fine to just continue to move on.
see Isaac Schumann with his hands up in front of him, right?
Yes, I do.
So your group is confronting him. Yes?
Wouldn't say confronting, I'd say trying to tell him to leave.
Okay. But you guys are scared
Scared, yes.
and you guys are telling him to leave, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And then you
So again, to continue to say they're scared to me, if I'm a 70-year-old guy or a 90-year-old person on the jury, I'm going to think, are you guys really scared of this dude that the whole time they continue to say they knew he was by himself? And they had 5 or 6 people with them, and then 5 or 6 other people come over, and there's more than 10 people and just him.
see, and now you know he's alone, right?
Yeah, I never saw he was with anyone ever.
And there's at least at that point, the 6 of you.
Yep.
You see him walk toward the blonde woman.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So he walks out of your path, does he not?
Yeah, for a split second, yeah.
He's over there talking to the woman for more than a split second, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can go by, can't you?
We could have, yes.
But now you're getting braver because of the number of people that are around.
Yes,
right?
because there was adults and we were trying to handle the situation.
Right. You guys start to try to handle the situation instead of just going by, which is what you could have done, right?
So now he's getting braver because there's more people, which again, what does that do? That creates and proves that a very obvious fact that 10 to 12 people is a lot scarier and a lot more overpowering than 5 or 6. Again, against one. 5 or 6 still seems overpowering, but once you get 10 to 12, now you're feeling brave. And he's creating the situation where they're escalating. He's about to start talking about taunting and pointing and pushing and how they're escalating because they're feeling braver. They were scared. Okay. Now they're not anymore. Also, if you've noticed through some of this trial, sometimes the questioning is done sitting down. I believe his direct examination, the state did it sitting down. But the defense attorneys are purposely deciding certain times to stand up during cross-examination to control the narrative, to control the questioning, to control the courtroom. And this is one of those moments. He knows this case. They're having a conversation. He's using his hands. He's speaking to the jury while he's cross-examining this witness.
Also quick. And like, I don't really feel like no one really leaving that situation because it was also quick and the commotion was just like everywhere. We were just young kids that were curious as to what was going on and we wanted to see it finish what we were seeing.
Young kids, some buzzwords, he's a pedophile because we were a bunch of young kids and he came up to us. That's, some buzzwords the state wants to stick to. He does look pretty young, this guy. Some of the other ones, not so much.
Wanted to see it finish because it was on tape, right?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Juwan Cockfield's videotaping this entire thing, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Right. You wanted to see how this tape played out. You wanted to see how this incident finished, right?
I wouldn't say we ever did it just for like a camera, like a video.
Well, do you remember him yelling for the culture? Remember that?
Do not.
You don't remember him yelling that?
I don't.
Okay. Do you remember somebody in your group yelling or saying to somebody, you got 10 seconds? Remember that?
I don't recall that.
Did you say that?
I did not.
Okay. So Mr. Mew moves over to the blonde. You agree there's a path to go through, but you want to see this through, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to see through?
Just the commotion. I don't know. We were just watching. None of us touched him. None of us did anything.
Right. You want to see how the commotion.
And we didn't want to leave.
None of us did anything. None of us touched him. None of us did anything.
Also, the 2 girls that were talking to him alone. Like, I mean, there's just so much stuff like you couldn't really say like we should just leave because I don't know who would just leave in that situation because it was also quick.
People
And
who were scared might want to leave, right?
So that is one of the questions I thought was a mistake by the defense attorney, because if people who were scared might have left, why didn't Mr. Mew leave? Now their argument is, he was encircled and stuff like that, which at parts it looked like he was, but at parts it looked like he could have left. So, you got to be careful when you throw some stuff at victims that your client also didn't do.
What's the question? Right?
could you repeat that?
People who were scared might want to leave, right?
Yes, but when we saw the adults, we felt more comfortable.
Oh, you guys began to call him a pedophile and a predator, right?
Yes.
You guys are taunting him, aren't you?
I wouldn't say taunting. I'd say just telling him how it was, and he made us feel that way, and he scared us, and
So you were paying him back.
I wouldn't say paying him back, no.
Well, would you agree you guys are around him?
No.
All pointing at him, chanting at him, right?
We weren't really all around him, no, but we were chanting and saying pedophile, get him, like, he's weird, all that stuff.
I'm going to show you a photograph. I want you to tell me if you think what your group is doing would be considered taunting someone. Okay?
Using the pictures in the video again. And these words like, taunting and what was the other word he used? Combative or something. Like he was asking him these words, and it's like, we know what these words mean. And when you say you don't know, and he can show you a video or a picture that looks like you're taunting him or confronting him or being confrontational, I think that was the word. It's like, that's not a good look. You don't want to make these arguments. You can say you were taunting him, but we never touched him. We were taunting him, but we never touched him until he punched that girl and we had to defend her. You can explain it. Don't try to make it seem like you're goody two shoes when the video shows that you weren't. You guys are being dumb and you're being annoying, dumb teenage boy type stuff, but we didn't cross lines. He crossed the line and we had no choice but to defend her. And then he stabbed all of us or a bunch of us. You just tell the truth, right? Trying to make it seem better than it is with things that might not be the truth is a very difficult web to weave. Just ask Alec Murdaugh.
Mr. Pelican, that's your group kind of behind Mr. Mew, right?
Yeah, on his right shoulder, yeah.
And you guys are doing what I'm doing with my hands, which is you're raising your arms, pointing at him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We're just going to play through it. It was at 2373, I think.
You can also tell, they can tell and can see that it is in fact being recorded, which is an element of this. Today's day and age, right?
2386. That's you right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the pink and blue shorts.
You don't think you're taunting him?
I would say I was pointing at him.
You don't think you were taunting him?
Objection asked and answered.
And so that objection asked answered. He didn't actually answer. He can say no, we weren't taunting him, but he didn't. He said, I think we're pointing at him. But you have to actually answer the question. I like how this judge has handled objections. He's not letting witnesses get away with answers like that where you're not actually answering the question. Again, you can say no, you can disagree and say we weren't taunting him, but you have to actually say it. Because when you say no and the whole jury thinks the answer is yes, or you could say, yes, we were taunting him. Taunting him like that, pointing finger at him, does not give him the right to respond in lethal force. Laughing and joking, that does not give him the right. That alone would not be enough for a good self-defense claim, in my opinion.
Am I answering?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I felt like I was pointing at him.
You said that. My question to you, though, is do you believe your actions there with the rest of your friends are taunting him?
It could be considered that, yeah.
And so after trying to battle the whole time and he eventually says, yeah, it could be considered that, he should have just said yes from the jump. Yes doesn't mean you lose. But after you battle back and forth 3, 4, 5 questions, and then eventually you say yes, now it looks like you didn't want to answer that and it's a bad answer. And the lawyer's feeling good. He's feeling like he's got a rhythm. He's bobbing and weaving.
And you're taunting him because you're feeling.
And now he can use the word since he's agreed and you're taunting him. Why are you taunting him?
And you're taunting him because you're feeling more confident and brave because of the other people, right? That's one reason.
Yes, sir.
He's alone. That's another reason, right?
Yes.
So, and at
I
that
mean,
point,
those are like, again, I feel like the witness is feeling a little beat down right now, maybe just being too agreeable, but it's like, I was taunting him. I was feeling brave. We had a lot of people with us and he was by himself, creating the atmosphere of the perfect storm for self-defense. Again, the people Muse age and older on the jury are more likely to relate to him in this situation than teenage boy victims. So that they're really painting this picture over and over again, the defense.
point you'd agree it's more than 10 against 1, right? There's more than 10 of you against Mr. Mew by himself, right?
Yeah, but I mean, not everyone was like punching him or doing anything to him.
My question to you initially was the numbers.
Yeah,
It's more than
I'd say there's
10.
probably about 10, yeah.
Only one of us can talk at a time, okay?
Sorry.
No, it's all right. So those are the reasons that you are taunting him is your confidence, your bravery is up, and the number of people around are also up, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you hear, do you hear the blonde, when Mr. Mew walks over to the blonde, she's screaming at him.
Yeah.
You heard that.
She's screaming, telling him to leave, get out of here.
And she's swearing at him, right?
Probably, yeah.
She's in his face, isn't she?
Not like in his face. I'd say probably like a foot apart, 2 feet apart.
A foot or two apart.
Yeah, just like telling him to leave.
She hadn't asked you anything about what had happened, right?
No.
Okay. So in terms of what you are seeing and hearing, she just walks up to him and tells him to leave, right?
Yeah, because we were calling like, help get this guy out of here. Like, get him out of here.
Call him a pedophile.
Yeah, exactly.
And you calling him a pedophile, right? Other people came around.
Exactly, yes.
Would you agree the more that you guys are calling him names, pedophile, predator, the higher the temperature is getting, meaning the more aggravated people are getting? You'd agree with that, right?
Not that I know. I don't know other people's feelings.
No, what I'm saying is what you observed.
I couldn't really tell you for sure or not.
Do you remember seeing Mr. Mew waving?
I
like
did
this
not
with
see
his
that.
hand? You don't see that.
Did not see that, no.
You do see other people come over from the Blondes group, though, right?
Everyone kind of came at the same time. Like their group came over.
Okay, and there was, while that may or may not be correct, there are at least 6, 7, 8 people that come over from their group, right?
Yeah, probably around that.
And at that point, you have to be feeling pretty confident in terms of the numbers, right?
Yes.
So at that point, you getting near him, you're not worried about that anymore, are you?
Not as much so, no.
Well, there's pictures you're within
Yeah, exactly.
inches of him, right?
Yeah.
Object inches, that's not the evidence.
Yeah, not inches.
The witness gives the answers. What the attorney say is not evidence.
I was never,
Hold
I
on,
probably
hold
was
on. Just rely, please, on what the witness says. Next question.
But you agree that initially starting out as scared, by the end, you're very close to him, pointing, and as you said, some people might consider taunting him.
And again, he feels like he's winning because he's repeating these points multiple times.
by the end, I mean, I was in complete shock because I saw a bunch of people stabbed.
Again, that's a witness pressing. That's the witness that if you don't like him, if you're a juror and you don't like him, I'll just tell you, juries sometimes attach to something. And that's what we talk about with jurors that are with you throughout the trial or against you throughout the trial. And it's really hard to turn them. If they're against a witness and he tries to push stuff like that, as much as they may believe the victim stories as a whole and the state story as a whole, they're starting to be like, okay, dude, like, come on, answer his questions. They start to understand how this process goes. And he's not doing that as in my opinion, right? If I'm just looking at him, it doesn't seem like he's throwing that stuff in there because he's so sad and hurt and traumatized by this, but instead he's trying to like win a battle here in this cross-examination is what it feels like.
In terms of when you were taunting him.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you see so, Mr. Cook, may I approach this?
Yes.
Mr. Pelican, I'm going to show you what has been moved into evidence as exhibit number 104. Okay. I'm not trying to trick you, so I want to make sure you and I are on the same page on this. There are initials here. You see those? Okay. So, for example, OP would stand for your, right? And
Nelson. What do you mean?
right, it's right. Okay, it's supposed to be Landon Weir. This is Isaac. Right. Okay. And this is kind of G1 is kind of where your tubes were in general. Okay. Would you say, in looking at this diagram, right before what I'm showing you here, which is at 149 of the video, that's kind of the general setup of where people are in this.
Like in that clip you just showed over there, I was standing next to Ryan Nelson. Though.
But you'd agree in general, am I right, that this is kind of the general pattern of where people are?
Yeah, general. Yeah.
And if I have it right, you would agree, people are like where I am to you on Mr. Mew, not directly behind him, but off to his side.
Yeah.
Yes. There's people in front of him.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's people kind of off to his other side. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Again, going with the theme of they were encircling him.
If I told you that the evidence has been, or this document, there's 13 people and Mr. Mew by himself, would you agree with that? Is that fair?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
And before he said 10 sounds about right. Now it's 13. And again, any inconsistencies defense attorneys can do a lot with.
A lot of us were just like standing there, the one watching. Like,
Well, you're not telling Mr. Mew what you're going to do, right?
what do you mean?
When you say people are standing there, you agree people don't know what other people are going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not telling him that you're not going to do anything.
Point is, like, you see 13 people, you don't know which one of them is going to jump you. And when one of them jumps you, you don't know if the other 12 are going to jump you. If one of them pushes you or punches you or kicks you, you don't know what the other 12 are going to do or if more are going to come. Just like they didn't know what Mr. Mew was going to do. He's going to pull a knife and start stabbing people. So again, that works both ways. Neither side knew what the other one was going to do.
You're all just
Standing there
taunting him.
to an extent. Weren't taunting him the whole time.
And you'd agree, though, you've already said this, in terms of what's going on, because of the number of people, your bravery, you're becoming more emboldened on what you're doing, right?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
Right?
You can answer the question.
Oh, could you repeat it?
You're becoming more emboldened, meaning your behavior, you're becoming more and more willing to do things because of the number of people around.
No, I was just standing there just watching. I never would have ever put my hands on anyone.
But he doesn't know that, right?
Objection is to what?
Sustained. Speculation.
I want to make sure I understand this right. Did you see what happened between Mr. Mew and the blonde person, the blonde girl?
No, I did not see, but I heard the fist hit her face, and then I saw her stumble backwards.
I want to make sure I got it right. You said you heard his fist hit her face.
Exactly.
If you didn't see it, how do you know he hit her?
How would you know it hit her face? Right? How would you know what part of the body a fist hit? Again, when you try to press sometimes with details you might not have, because he actually gives a good answer here in a second when he says, like, I could tell when I turned around what happened. It was obvious. But to use certain details, like I heard his fist hit her face, that to me is another thing a defense attorney can pick apart, which he's about to do.
Because he was the only one doing anything to anyone.
You didn't see it.
I could clearly make out that that's what happened.
How? You just said you couldn't see it.
Just because, I mean, he was standing right in front of her, and he looked like he had a crazy look on his face, and she stumbled backwards, and she was standing right in front of him. Clearly, I could make out that he hit her. Clearly, I could.
How?
He's the only one standing in front of her. I turn around, they're screaming at each other. I hear something and I turn around and she's fumbling down on the ground and he's still standing where he was. So I put it together to know he hit her in the face. That's a fine explanation, which he kind of said. But I think, again, he tries to press a little too hard, which I think the defense attorney loves it in this scenario when they try to press areas that either they have documents or video that prove they're not true, and then they bring up some of the important facts, right? So he hit his credibility first. Then when he brings up, this is a very important fact, did in fact Mr. Mew hit this blonde girl to start the altercation, create self-defense, which responded in self-defense and all this other stuff. It's very important for who's instigating and really elevating this. And now that his credibility's already been hit, now you can battle him a little bit on these facts. And that's a really good way to set up this cross-examination.
You didn't see it.
By using my brain and putting the pieces together, I could clearly tell that he hit her. And I mean, he clearly hit her. I mean, there's no denying that.
They're
I'm
denying
going
it.
to ask you to explain to me, because you didn't see it,
Mhm.
how you know that.
How I know what?
You said he clearly hit her.
Because I heard it and I saw her stumble backwards.
You heard something, right?
I heard a fist hit a face. I mean, have you ever heard a punch? A punch makes a noise. I heard that. And he was standing straight in front of her and she stumbled backwards. I could clearly use all the context clues to put together that she hit it or he hit her.
Okay. So you believe that he hit her to the
That
face.
was actually a decent explanation. Like, I think that's better, even though, I think telling that it was a fist that hit a face by the sound, it does make a sound, but I think that you can hit other parts of the body, like even other parts of the head or other bony parts of the body, shoulders, collarbones, maybe, or a slap versus a punch. There are things that I think it's not like so easy to tell that a fist was hitting a face. I could be wrong. You guys could disagree with me in the comments, of course.
Where there was a noise like this.
Yes, there was.
Like that sounded like two hands clapping, but I don't know. I don't know what he hit with his open hand.
Know which hand he hit her with?
I could not tell you, no.
Do you know which way she fell back?
She kind of like stumbled back like a little bit, like to her like right. Like she like stumbled back like a diagonal to her right just a little bit.
Okay, so I won't. So she stumbled. If I'm looking at you, she stumbled this way.
Yeah, like that way.
Notice how they confirm details. They've done it the whole trial in cross-examination. They want to confirm details because when all of these witnesses or victims have different details, you can use that to hit credibility. Now, sometimes they can all be telling the truth and just remember it or see it a little bit different, or it's been 2 years. Their memory's not as good as it was the day of. But details usually help. If they're inconsistent, they help defenses. If they're very consistent, that's obviously a huge, huge factor for the prosecution.
That makes sense to you then, that if there actually was a punch, it would have come and gone this way to knock her. So it would have come and hit her left side to make her go to the right.
I'm not exactly sure. I just heard it and saw it.
Okay. Does she fall down?
She stumbled. I wouldn't say like fully fell down though. She like caught herself a little bit.
Okay. And after you say that this happened,
Mhm.
you say everyone got on his ass and started punching him, right?
I said that. I mean, in the video it clearly shows not everyone got on his ass and started punching him. I must have just said that because I was just in shock still.
What I'm asking you,
So again, the lawyer has just gotten him to discredit his prior statement further. Again, the prosecution is using some of those prior statements, consistencies and the good facts with a lot of other witnesses and victims. So to say I was probably still in shock, as a lot of them were, he's not only discrediting his own prior statement given to law enforcement, but others.
was that what you said?
I don't recall exactly saying that, but if it's on the paper, I'm sure I said it.
Okay. You see a person, you don't know the person, but you see the person punch him in the face and knock him in the water, right?
I didn't really see the punch, but I saw him fall into the water, yeah.
Do you
Well, you know what a punch to the face sounds like, don't you? Is that the sound you heard? And couldn't you use your brain and put it together? Who was standing close to him? Now, he didn't do that. And I actually think that was the right move. You don't want to be sarcastic. You don't want to look like a jerk. It's a young victim here, somebody who went through something very traumatic. Now, some people can say he brought it on himself. Fine. I still feel bad. I still wish this never happened to anybody. But that was an opportunity to be sarcastic and throw his own words that may seem not a great explanation back in his face, and he didn't do it. Restraint. It's something people don't compliment enough when lawyers are cross-examining witnesses. They love the punch. They love snark. They love when you hit them hard. But restraint sometimes is just as important as anything else.
hear or see the person run around him and crack him across the side of the face?
I did not see that. No.
Okay. Did you see the guy in the yellow shorts come up behind him and shove him from behind while he's in the water?
No. At that point, like I was in complete shock already. I don't remember much from that exact moment.
What were you in shock about at that point?
Yeah.
The knife.
Seeing the knife.
Yeah, and then I kind of just went black for like a couple like minutes or so. That I don't really. They're all really blurry. I just remember bits and pieces.
So seeing
Again, discrediting his own testimony.
the knife made you go black. Yes.
To an extent.
You'd agree if your memory, if you remember this.
Yeah, if I remembered anything, I
Hold
would
on,
agree.
There's a question. Mr. Mew doesn't hurt anyone with a knife until and after he gets punched in the face. Mr. Mew
Yeah.
doesn't.
That timeline's not adding up. Like, you don't go black when Mr. Mew gets punched in the face because the knife's not out yet. So if it's the knife that made you go black, this isn't adding up.
Hurt anyone with a knife until question. Mr. Mew doesn't hurt anyone with a knife until and after he gets punched in the face and knocked in the water, right?
Yeah, only because he punched a woman.
My question to you is, the only time anyone gets injured with a knife is after Mr. Mew is repeatedly punched, slapped, and pushed. Yes?
I mean, I don't really know. I didn't see it all. I didn't see a punch, a push, and a slap. I did see him fall at the beginning into the water.
And then by your statement then, people got on his ass. What does that mean to you?
It means just like
I actually think right there it may have been good to say you're positive the blonde girl got punched based on what you heard and saw, but you're not positive Mr. Mew got punched. Just to confirm that. Whatever he says is fine, but it shows the jury how this testimony is going. Not snarky, still using restraint, but pointing out the inconsistency there in the descriptions of a punch he heard but did not see.
I mean, after anyone punches a girl ever, there's obviously going to be a consequence. That's not okay.
That's not what I'm asking you.
What are you
What I'm
asking?
asking you is, what does it mean to you when you say everyone got on his ass? What does that mean?
I mean, people hit him, yeah, because he punched a woman.
People hit him, right?
I couldn't tell you exactly how many, no, because I, once again, don't really remember. I know I didn't.
You didn't touch him, right?
Not once.
And he didn't touch you, right?
He did not. Thank the Lord.
And you don't see, well, what Isaac is doing.
No, I did not.
Now, I think you say to police, Isaac was not going toward him.
Yeah, my memory, I didn't ever see him close to him at all. It was a shock to me.
Okay, so your memory doesn't include Isaac grabbing him by the throat.
I don't know. I don't think he ever grabbed him by the throat.
Well, as they showed in their opening statement, the defense is going to use a picture, a still shot of the video to show somebody grabs him across the throat. And based on the identifying characteristics, they believe it is Isaac, the deceased victim in the case. He doesn't ever remember seeing it. And by the way, we're getting to the end of cross. So you know this is an important point that the defense was saving for the very end. Let's see how he executes the end of cross.
So I'm going to show you, if you watch the screen. This is still $29.99. Does that appear to you that Mr. Muse, somebody's got their hand around Mr. Muse's throat?
Yes, it does.
I mean, even he doesn't even try to argue with that. Yes, it does. That right hand is literally around his throat with the other one coming. And I believe we can't see the knife in the picture, but this is the fatal stab by Mr. Mew on Isaac. A lot of other factors and context to deal with, not just this picture, but again, something that this witness obviously did not see. Because he said Isaac was never even near Mr. Mew. And it was a shock what happened to him. And he definitely didn't see him grab him around the throat. A lot happening very quickly. Picture says 1,000 words. A video says even more. And they have that in this case.
Can you tell by the gold bracelet on the left wrist that that's Isaac Schumann?
I don't really know whose bracelet that is.
You don't know that that doesn't refresh your memory or that you're not able to say who that is, right?
No, I can't.
But you are able to say that that person's got him around the throat. Yes?
Yeah, it does look that way.
Okay.
I think the look says they know how this cross is going.
I'm finished, sir. Thank you.
Just my stand.
And that's how he ends it. He doesn't ask the one too many questions. He doesn't let anybody explain. He doesn't let the witness explain it any further. He doesn't let him make it any better. It wasn't a perfect cross. There were some witness answers the witnesses got in, the things he blurted out, but it, to me, was executed beautifully. Very close to perfect, in my opinion. Because again, you don't want to go too hard, but you do have to control it. You got to make sure you get your points across. You got to make sure you hit his credibility without being a jerk. And hit it only where it's important. I'm sure there was a million things he could have nitpicked between his prior statement and what he testified in court. But you pick the important parts, the strongest parts. So it doesn't look like you're reaching or being a jerk either. And again, I thought he executed it beautifully. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Now, doesn't mean they're going to win. Doesn't mean they're going to lose. It's just one part of a trial. But that's what we talk about here, is the trials, the legal parts, the lawyering, the judges, the testimony, the evidence. And that's what we focused on tonight's video. I appreciate you guys joining me. Make sure you hit that like button. Please subscribe to our page. Got a lot of new subscribers from this trial, so I love hearing from you guys. Let me know if you subscribed from this trial specifically. Always cool to see when the new subs come on and to hear how they think about this. And, you know, you're all potential jurors, so I love to hear your opinion because it's possible a juror could feel the same exact way, and they actually have a vote in this case. So I appreciate it as always. That's all we got tonight. Till next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a pase you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.